That is the event that will start the 7-year tribulation. That guy who does that will be the actual Antichrist. Every union on this map is in high gear right now. I'm just saying, here we have a board of peace put together, circumventing the UN and all these other ones that have been around that can't get the job done. You're going to get a spanking from God because you're dividing the land, number one. They're not interested in a two-state solution. Their solution is annihilation.
This video is sponsored by the Apocalypse of St. John movie. To find out more, go to apocalypserevealed.com. Pastor Billy Crone, it's always great to have you here, and you look great, I gotta say. We're just going to start off right now. Yes, these are the same jackets. We look great in this tiger stripe. I know we did a video before. I'll put a link to that in the description, but where we were wearing the same jackets. We got a lot of comments about that, but these are a lot of fun. They get people's attention, but you're getting people's attention for some real reasons, not just because of catchy jackets. So it's great to have you with us.
Well, thank you. Thanks. It's always a treat to be on. And hey, sometimes people need to realize, even visually, that it's good to be one in the spirit. You know what I'm saying? It sounds biblical, and I think that's what we did.
That's very true. Very true. Well, I know I reached out to you a couple weeks ago, and you were traveling, so we couldn't talk about this then. But Trump at Davos making his big announcements of the Board of Peace and who was going to be on this. And Pastor Billy, I can't just look at this and say, this seems so odd, and you know, I've never seen this before. Well, if you read the Bible, you read the verses, the chapters in Revelation and Daniel chapter 7. Yeah, it seems like things are really playing out in super speed right now.
Yeah, it's almost like we're living the last days and it's time to get motivated. And God told us this in advance for a good reason. He did. Board of peace with this and peace with who? Israel and the Middle East. What are we talking about here? We're talking about potentially Daniel 9:27 tells us what is the event that starts the 7-year tribulation, the final week of Daniel's 7th week prophecy. That's why it's a 7-year tribulation, right? Not a 5, not a 2. Well, it clearly says there that one guy is going to make, in the context there, it's the Antichrist, is going to make a covenant, and we know it's going to be a covenant, a peace treaty with Israel. That guy who does that will be the actual Antichrist. Now, I'm not saying Trump is that guy. I'm just saying here we have a board of peace put together, circumventing the UN and all these other ones that have been around that can't get the job done, okay? And once again, what's it all about? Little bitty Israel, we're going to bring peace to the Middle East and things of that nature. Go figure. Well, guess what? The Bible's very clear. That was a prophecy about 2,600 years ago. And it isn't just some prophecy. John, that is the event that will start the 7-year tribulation. The good news for you and I as a born-again Christian is we're not going to be there. So what that does is it means our departure, the rapture, which happens prior, has therefore logically, biblically got to be getting close. And so again, it's huge news. It's just another option for somehow, some way, somebody to arise on the scene and broker a deal with Israel and bring in that time frame.
Pastor Billy, when it comes to peace and peace deals with Israel, and just I don't think I'll ever forget in 2019, whenever they laid out the two-state solution plan for Israel. And it looked like, oh my gosh, they're going to actually broker some sort of a peace deal. And I remember talking to somebody that was actually a guest on a TV show that I was producing at that point. And he said, just you watch. They touched Israel, and now there's going to be judgment as a result of this. Right. That night was the first time that I heard about this virus coming out of Wuhan, China, that eventually became COVID-19 and changed the world. It was that night. So I heard about it. I heard about the dividing of the land that morning. Yeah. At night, I hear about this disease. Changed the world forever after that. So as people are trying to broker peace deals and try to make peace with Israel, it is a difficult thing to deal with. And we know not just naturally, but supernaturally as well. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's what you're quoting is a promise from God. And he gives a warning that you do not divide the land. That land belongs to Israel. It's always been. It's their inheritance. It came from God. He's the one that created the earth. Psalm 24, the earth is the Lord and everything in it. So he can portion it out to whoever he wants. He's God. Hello. So that's also the illusion of this two-state solution. not only is you're going to get a spanking from God because you're dividing the land, number one. Number two, the other illusion is the Muslim community, they're not interested in a two-state solution. And this is not a conspiracy. This is coming out of their own mouth on their own news broadcast that unfortunately doesn't make it here in the West by and large. And so all this stuff that they're going to, oh yeah, they're going to go along with it, whatever. I mean, that's not reality. However, one way or another, God said there's going to come a guy on the scene and he's going to do what people have been trying for how long? Decades. Not just the last couple of years, not just while Trump's been in office first or second time or whoever. We're talking decades. Since Israel became a nation in 1948, they're always trying to do a peace deal. All these ones, they come up and they don't work and they don't fail. These people renege on, it just doesn't work. But one guy's going to pull it off. And again, back to something that just happened, right? This new peace thing with Trump and all these guys around the world, this peace board, maybe that's going to be the one. Because the current UN and all these other guys, Macron and all these guys who think they're going to write in and save the day, nothing's working. So it doesn't surprise me that a new angle pops up on the scene. And dare I say, maybe out of this group is going to come that guy.
Yeah, for sure. So speaking of different groups, one of the things that I thought was very interesting was the number of people that are, I guess, founding members of this Board of Peace. Yeah. And as I counted it up, there seems to be 10 of them. Is my math correct, or am I missing something?
No, dude. Yeah.
Let's talk about that here, because that's things are lining up too quickly, too precisely, and they were originally talking about the Board of Peace as, hey, we're gonna exist to bring peace to Gaza. You look at their charter; it says nothing about that.
Right. Well, again, the reason why you and I are snickering about it is because we know our Bible and Bible prophecy, and not just Daniel 9:27. The Antichrist is going to make a peace treaty, a covenant with Israel. That's what starts the 7-year tribulation. But in the 7-year tribulation, it clearly says, and I'll read that text to you. It's Revelation 17. And it says, speaking of 10, the 10 horns or powers in the scripture, horns of power, the 10 horns you saw are 10 kings who have not yet received a kingdom, but who for 1 hour will receive authority as kings along with the beast, the Antichrist. Watch this. They have one purpose, and they will give their power and authority to the beast. So Revelation says it only starts with a covenant with Israel, and that's what starts the 7-year tribulation by the Antichrist. But it says apparently the planet is going to be split up from 200 some countries into 10 regions ruled by 10 guys. And then once that's established, they hand all that power over to the Antichrist. That's an easy interpretation. Most people don't even argue about that one. Now, here's what's wild. Not only with this Board of Peace, and then you got 10 guys. Well, that's kind of coinkydink. Maybe not. The other interesting thing that's going on is the planet is already being split up into 10 different kingdoms, right? This is, I printed it out, called the Club of Rome map. This has been around since the early 70s. And the Club of Rome map, it's a think tank organization, Club of Rome. And they were brought into existence by Klaus Schwab, the World Economic Forum. I have that on video. He admitted he's the one that gave him the start. Klaus Schwab, of course, is the guy about the Great Reset, basically want to take over the planet. The Agenda 2030, they want to do it by 2030, coming up. And so that's what they produced. But they produced a map in order to bring peace to the planet. Can you keep with that theme, right? And then we need to manage the planet better. And it's a lot easier to manage the planet in 10 regions ruled by 10 guys than it is with everybody having their own individual sovereignty. Now, it sounds crazy, but that's what's been going on since the early 70s. Now, the big watershed moment was the European Union, right? I remember back in those days, man, growing up, and that thing went off. And that was big news. We don't even think about it anymore. European Union. But what was that? That was a historical event. The 10-horn kingdom was prophesied 2,000 years ago. A few decades ago, it started to happen. The European nations, what? A conglomeration of nations that came together with a single currency, a new currency called the euro, right? That was deliberately done because we know God never gets it wrong. So at some point, you're going to have to see nations coming together to form a union. I didn't say he did, right? And then what's interesting is every Union on this map, John, is in high gear right now. Mega high gear. Right? Now, before I go any further, you're saying, where am I all getting this? Well, in our previous interviews, we released a documentary and a book called Trump and the Stargate Prophecies. Did you know that prophecy did not stop just because Trump got in office? Newsflash, newsflash. Hello. No, and this was his first day in office. He launched AI. I'm not saying he got up and says, I'm going to launch AI for the Antichrist. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it has biblical ramifications, so can't we talk about it? Is it illegal now? What's going on here, Christian? So that's Revelation 13, the mark of the beast system. You need AI to pull it off. We just released yesterday, I kid you not, our sequel, a lot bigger because we deal with not one sign, 3 different signs. And the first one we deal with is the 10-horn kingdom, right? So get that resource if you want big, deep investigation. But let's go back to this. So this has been put into play, Revelation 17, 10 kingdoms ruled by 10 guys, right, to bring peace to the planet. You see the theme? Okay, so now if you notice the green one, it has Canada, U.S., and Mexico, and Greenland.
Yep.
Right? So this has been going on for quite some time. Now, this has actually been put into play by traders in our country, and I'll name them. It really was put into high gear by George Bush Jr., and I'm just being consistent. That's what we're supposed to do as a Christian, tell the truth. We're truth tellers. So George Bush Jr., now back in the day, these meetings, he had to combine U.S., Canada, Mexico, the North American Union, as pictured on the map from back in the early 70s. It's all planned out. And they called it SPP, the Security Partner Prosperity Partnership, SPP. But it didn't stop with him. It continued on with Obama. And believe it or not, Biden, I almost said what a lot of people felt like it was, Biden administration, But anyway, so he continued high gear. And this was the other thing that was going on with the immigration. The immigration issue during Biden, the reason why, and I have this on tape, the reason why they were flooding so many non-Americans into America during those 4 years wasn't just because they were stacking the deck, knowing that statistically they vote more Democrat than Republican, right? That is true. But the other one was, and this is on tape, their goal was to flood America with upwards to 100 million immigrants from different countries. Why? Because it dilutes the Americana mindset that it's America first, national sovereignty, Bill of Rights, Constitution, right? So if you dilute any country with enough people that aren't of that country, then when you say, let's combine countries, it's a numbers game, right? So here's my point. So Trump gets in. I'm not saying he's working for Klaus Schwab or the World Economic Forum, but I will say this. He's following another map. And that map I came across, I kid you not, at Cornell University Library. It's not AI, it's not Photoshop. This map, the new North American Union, is called the Technate map, right? And the Technate map is from the technocracy movement that was launched in the 30s in response to World War I and the Great Depression. And their whole premise was this: the politicians and governments had demonstrated after World War I and now this Great Depression that they are not qualified to bring peace to the planet. So it's up to the technology experts, the scientists, the think takers, the technology to bring peace to the planet. So in order to bring peace to the planet, they came up with their version of a North American Union, right? So now if you look at their map, it's basically the same thing as Klaus Schwab's map, with the exception is it goes further south. It includes Venezuela, it looks like, there too now. Man, I tell you what, we must be wearing the same jacket or something because I'm seeing the same thing, right? No, and exactly. Now, this explains what's going on, right? Because you have the unthinkable. How is Canada ever going to merge with the U.S.? Alberta wants to do that right now, John. Yeah, exactly. And then once that goes, they're saying then Saskatchewan's going to go. And if you remove those two provinces of Canada, they're done. They're bankrupt. So it'll absorb. What's up here? Greenland. Greenland's on the map, right? Once you see the map, you know where we're headed. But then it goes not only through Mexico, it goes down here. What's down here? Panama Canal. What? That's starting to sound familiar. And then where's it end? It ends in Venezuela. And I will say this, I'm not a prophet nor the son thereof, but I'm telling you what's coming next is the Caribbeans, including Cuba. What is in the news, John, right now? They're putting tariffs on Cuba to anybody who sells oil to Cuba. Cuba's going to fall because Cuba's on the map. Now, I'm not saying Trump's doing this. I'm building one of the 10 horn regions for the Antichrist. I'm not saying that. You call it the Monroe Doctrine, expansionism, all that stuff, whatever. I'm just saying Trump is surrounded by technocrats and they have a plan. And I found their map. And it tells us where they're headed. And then God tells us ultimately where it's headed. I'm not saying we don't need to do things for national sovereignty. I'm not saying that we don't have a threat and we need to protect ourselves as America. All I'm saying is God says at one point in time, you're going to have 10 unions, and this new union that is only a little bit bigger than this other union is being put into play. It has everything to do with Bible prophecy. And then let me add that. It's not just a coinkydink that every single thing in the news is following this map, every single one of them. Let me give you another tie that the technocrats, I think, are in the ear of Trump. Now, again, by the way, the first term, we all knew this, that Trump was surrounded by what? The swamp, including rhinos, traders who were giving him bad advice, right? This second term, I still think he's surrounded by a swamp, but if you saw when he first got in, who was he immediately surrounded with? Technocrats, technology experts, not just Musk. Go down the line. All these guys, Mark Zuckerberg, right? Jeff Bezos, people who hated his guts. And not just individually, but they're meeting as a group in the White House. And then it just so happens their movement wants to create this, and this is everything that's going on. So, and again, I'm not saying Trump's doing it for the nefarious reasons per se. I'm just saying the bottom line is it's creating a new North American Union. Anyway, so, but let me give you another thing, a direct tie. This is going to sound like a conspiracy, but check my math, right? We cite our sources. The technocracy movement, okay, that produced this map for peace, for a new North America, was started by a guy named Howard Scott. One of the other big leaders was a guy named Joshua Haldeman. Joshua Haldeman lived in Canada during this time, and he eventually moved to South Africa. He moves to South Africa. Him and his wife have a daughter. They named their daughter May. May gets married, and she has a son. And you know what she named him? Elon. Elon Musk is the grandson of Joshua Haldeman, one of the bigwigs of the technocratic Technate of America movement. Direct tie, John. So it's not just a quinky-dink that you have their map that tells us everything geopolitically that's going on right now, but we have a direct tie. And because, again, what's the premise? They think that the politicians, and there's some truth to this, the politicians and the governments around the world have demonstrated they cannot bring peace to the planet. And so it's up to the techno wizards. The technology is going to come in and save the day and provide utopia, right? And so, again, I don't think that's by chance. Now, I'll give you another little conspiracy thing, but again, check my math. There is another technology tie with Trump. And that is, believe it or not, one of the most technologies intelligent guys to ever be born in recent times is Nikola Tesla, right? We've all heard of Nikola Tesla, right?
Right.
I remember before I got saved, I used to get acquainted with that guy, just a genius with technology. He developed wireless at the turn of the previous century, right? We're just now goofing around with it. He was so far ahead of his time. He was doing electricity, free electricity, where you can just put a metal rod in the ground wherever you're at, and you'll have free electricity. No wonder they shut that one down. But he was also working on a death ray to where he could beam, literally from continent to continent. It's a huge death ray. And what happened was everything was fine. He was doing all his experiments here in America, but his funding dried up, and nobody was funding him anymore. And so he didn't care. He wants to continue with his experiments. And so he starts sending letters to other countries going like, hey, you want to fund my project? Well, then he became a threat. And the next thing you know, he's found mysteriously dead in his high-rise apartment, right? Well, he left behind tons and tons of files. And John, still to this day, there's mega files of Nikola Tesla that's missing. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is on tape. Okay, so the U.S. government, after Tesla was found mysteriously dead, they go to inspect his files. And do you know on record who they sent to go get those files?
Professor John Trump.
John Trump, the uncle of
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump, right?
Is an MIT professor, yeah. So he's definitely qualified for that, but it's the tie-ins are incredible.
Yeah, exactly. So you got the technocracy movement. Technology will save the day. Here's how we're going to bring peace to the planet, including a new North American Union. It just so happens that's all the countries that we're trying to combine right now. Direct tie with Elon Musk, who's a technology guy. And then the Nikola Tesla technology has been in the family. And again, I am not saying that President Trump is going, I'm going to build this for the end time. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I think people are in his ear. Mm-hmm. And I do believe he thinks it's the best thing for national sovereignty. And I do believe he thinks it's going to provide an economic boom. It's going to keep us safe. And I'm not against that. I'm just saying, know your scripture, Christian. That's a huge sign that the 7-year tribulation has got to be close, because that means it's going to be swallowed up in one of the 10 unions. I'm not making this up. So and that's what I've been saying lately with this is it's going to happen because God said it's going to happen. It's just, it looks like the one that they're going to pull off is just a little bit further south, but that's it.
Yeah.
It's still one of the 10. They're going to be ruled by 10 guys, and those guys are going to give their power over to the Antichrist.